Well, ladies and gents, we've got a big one for you here. The best buys for round 18. And there are a few must-haves, definitely. And then there are a few guys out there that could potentially just be stopgaps for you. And I think it does depend on how many trays your specific team has. Now, I mentioned in the last video, guys, if you're looking for one-on-one help around strategy, which I think is the biggest thing, dependent on where your team's at, in the description below, guys, is how to join the private crew. $25 for the rest of the season, AUD. And I can help you sort out your squad, especially for this final 10 rounds. And then this is last week to get in, because if you are a returning member next year, what you'll see is I will be doing a one-on-one review of your 2025 season. So that'll be awesome as well. So jump in, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side. But now, not a lot of movement has happened so far, given it's Tuesday, and we do have plenty of days there until Friday evening for the first game. There's only 5 games this round, 13 on the park. We have 2 more rounds of that before we get back to 17 for the remainder. Now we do see Hughes, Tedesco, Preston, Katoa, Duncan and Karapani all above that 0.5 mark. And let's go from hooker all the way through to wing fullback now and give you some help. So, Damien Cook. I personally have him as the best hooker option coming into this week. I personally wouldn't buy Jazz Tavanga right now, just the way that he's set up with back at 9 in these sort of expensive hooker ranges. So you have Damien Cook, you have Tavanga, and you do have Reed Mahoney as well as a potential option that we'll mention next up. The thing with Damien right now is the minutes. So the last 2 weeks he's gone back to normalcy. So what we saw in a lot of other rounds this year, and actually less than what we saw in the early parts of the season. The good thing with him is that he's running the footy. Last week, managed to get 110 metres. The week before was able to get a try through that really good run from 20 out. So if he's looking and he's in that mood, you've got opportunities for him to score well. And he didn't actually need to get the big tackle numbers last week to be really effective. So that's the exciting thing, where he can play a multitude of positions. And they do have a few more players out here with Couchman and Luciano Leilua as well. The thing with Cook last week was that he didn't actually manage to get more minutes with the issues that the other players had and how many guys they had out. But price at 47, if there's an issue to Little, he could be that keeper. And also the same for Cook. If we have an issue there, then Little will be that alternative option as well. So for Damien, I think he's the clear main buy at hooker. And now Reed Mahoney, 5 price points cheaper at a 42 there and 559k. You see the last collection of weeks for him have included 47 being his low. 52 minutes last week was the worry with him. Come off the field when Galvin does come on. So with him not being near an 80-minute guy, I think you are going to see high 20s, the random 30-odd in these types of games for him. Yes, you see the missed tackles aren't as crazy high as we've seen earlier on in the season, and it might be because he feels like he can go a bit harder for that that lesser amount of time. And you saw when he went back to the big minutes for the 76, he did make a lot more tackles, but he also missed a heap more as well. So you are relying, as you saw here last week, on a line break try assist, which is really good. I don't think he's a clear option this week, and I would rather not have 13 than buy Reed. Whereas Cook, I would buy him and take that bit of a risk to have the 13 and a better scorer there. For Benaya, he's at 301k, priced at 22 now, and you should assume a pretty decent score this week. The worry with buying someone at 301k like him is that he could just be a bench guy, and we know that there's a limited amount of minutes available when Connor Watson comes back to the 9 position. So is it worth having a guy that's probably going to play low minutes, score low off the bench when Watson comes back? Like, yes, he'll get the good score this week, but I think at the moment with our cheapies, we want them to have a pretty solid spot in the side. And if you're going to pay anywhere near 300k, you could go down to guys like Jed Stuart, these types of players that you at least know are going to have an 80-minute spot in the team. Yes, they could score 20 in that time, but with Benaya, you're very likely locking him in for a 10 to 20 type score if he's playing 20 odd minutes off the bench there. And now you saw him play 51 in round 16, but that won't be a regular occurrence if Connor Watson is playing the big minutes. They had guys not backing up and different things that happened in that game to cause him to go more minutes. Bronson Garlick, I had to mention him, but I thought the price point was a bit rough at 401k when you are getting him for one important game, and he should score 40 to 50. That's the great news. Where the not so good news is that Harry Grant is starting to come into form, and look, if he was to get injured, it works out well for you as a buyer of Garlick, but overall it's not, I think, the correct play. Even if you do need a hooker at the moment, I would try and make the extra cash to cook. Would Benaya be better? Maybe, but Garlick's still going to probably play some bench at certain times as well. And now, when I say must-have, I can't call him a must-have because I can't purchase him myself, but Tallis Duncan at 630k, he is still a buy. You've seen here, it's just turned around for him. They are going left plenty. You can see the last 4 weeks there, he's been 98 meters or above. If he gets over 120, we know he has tackle breaking ability. He hasn't even offloaded the footy in the last 4 weeks there, and he still has a low score of 51. Yes, has 3 tries. Yes, has 5 line breaks, but the tackle numbers, especially over the last 3 weeks, he has only missed 1, and he's made over 120. So absolutely spectacular effort from Tallis. When you look at him, you have to think about round 19. Can you cover his buy in that week? Most people, I think, will have a lot of the Raiders, the South boys, especially with Kolomatangi, with Aitken, with Hosking, with Tapane, Horsburgh, all these types of guys, potentially Starling and Hooker as well. So Tallis will be a very, very tough guy to bring in if you are in a position where it would force you to trade next week. So with Tallis, I think he's the best buy of the week, but it is very circumstantial for Tallis Duncan. I'm just so sad that I don't have him, and thanking my lucky stars that I bought him in Supercoach a couple of weeks ago and got 134 last week. It was crazy. To be fair, what was crazy was Drinkwater getting 134 as well, but only 60 in NRL Fantasy. Celesi Foketi at 368k. He becomes a very interesting buy as well. So you would have seen my team list video just before. He is in a position on the edge now, which we've only seen him at lock, at prop, or on the interchange there across his games this season. But what we know here in round 16 there, he managed to play the 80 minutes, and in that scenario got 39 tackles, ran the footy for 88 metres, and did major line break assist, try assist as well. But if you take that away, it's a 50 for him. And as a guy that covers edge and mid, plays next week as well, that can be used as a cash down that will stay in this team for the rest of the season. So it seems to be that the best type of options are in that edge and mid, but Foketi, he ends up playing next week where Duncan doesn't, but we do expect Duncan to score much better. But at this price point, you only need him to be like a 35 longer term, and I think that he can do that even when players come back, but do expect this week and potentially next week to be 40 plus type of scores for Celesi, and for him to score well in your team. So I implore to you guys that he is a very, very good purchase this week. Make sure you check out the timestamps down below, guys. You'll be able to see each of the players that you want to, but we're going through from hooker all the way through to wing fullback with the cash cows spread throughout. Now, Nawaqanitawase Whyte at 582, he has improved. He's come off that injury game. It was very up and down for a bit there as well, which you saw was pretty similar with guys like Siwa Wong, guys like Connor Watson, but the team has improved, and since that injury game, he got the 48 a couple of weeks ago and then played awesome last week. 6 tackle breaks, 0 missed tackles there, and has 180 and 205 meters. So he's back into some of that good form, and if you do want to buy him, you're hoping for about a 50 average. My thing with Nawaqanitawase, and it helps for the next 2 weeks, but is he a longer term purchase in your side, or will you use him to upgrade to guys like Payne Haas, to guys like Isaiah Yeo over the next few weeks? Or does he go to some of the other halves or wing fullback targets that you're looking at? Do you have as well the room to muck around with trades like that, or is it worth just going for someone cheaper or going all the way up to the guns this week? Corey Horsburgh, 645k. In this scenario, you can see here that he's had a really good season, averaging 53. But in that mid position, there are so many guns. Isaiah Yeo coming back into form last week. you've got guys like Tarpane who were like, oh, do we end up selling him? And Tarps is averaging 58.5. So with Horse, I can't push him as a big selection in your side. The big thing with him right now is the minutes. So since moving to lock, he's gone up into the mid to high 50s, whereas before he was in the lower 50s. And since moving to that position, it's 57, 48, and 69 last week, which were awesome. And that only includes the one offload across those 3 weeks. So things have moved up for him. He just has more chance to make the larger grouping of tackles. And then, again, with the meters gained, should have more chance to hit a regular number and then score 50 plus. So I can see it at least averaging and see him averaging anywhere near in the mid 50s. But with the buy in round 19, to see another guy that you add to the list that doesn't help you, next week and hinders you more than anything. Now, Samuel Fainu there, we've got him and we've got Jurbo in that very similar price range of 430 and 421. Now, I don't suspect that either of these two are going to move the needle as to how important they are of a player on your side. We saw last year that Samuel had a really, really good season. And in here, he's averaging 36.6, priced down to 32 due to that 10 that he had. So the worry with him is if he gets pushed out to centre, if the team does struggle and they get smashed, he's the guy that does miss out, or one of the guys that misses out on a good score on the edges because they miss more tackles and they have less chance of scoring anything. And you look back to last year and he did have his troubles with missed tackles at times, but he also had other weeks there where he was good. And I just feel like he's fairly consistently not great in terms of missed tackles this year. So definitely can expect a mid-30s improvement on where he's priced at. But is it going to be worth it for your side with the dual position, with a buy a little bit later on? As a mid-range guy that doesn't feel like he has a lot of upside this year, that's my worry with him. He has a 55, but the rest of the scores are 30s and 40s, and I just don't think it's worth it to buy. And now Jake Trbojevic there, if you're looking at 2025, which we have to because he is definitely slowing down as we go along, but he's averaging 68.4 minutes and 38.5 is the average when he's not injured, which we saw in that, the one I just filtered out. So there's, 7 points of potential upside, but again, the highest score for him this year is 49, which included a try saver and just the one end turnover tackle with one missed tackle. So Jurbo, very lacking in upside, is probably slightly better pick than Samuela, just for knowing what he can average right now in a team that is a little bit better, but does miss next week. So a bit of a gross pick, if you ask me, overall, but I had to mention. Jacob Preston in at the edges now. 57 is the price point, averaging 59.5, so a slight discount on what you can get from him. He continues to score tries, which is great for owners, and plays the rest of the year. Got a little bit of experience at Origin Camp as well. Now, he's someone on my list, but how many of these expensive guys can you get? Do you want to, or do you need an edge this week? And if you do, and Tallis you already have, or if you're needing a guy to cover this position next week, then now could be a great week to get him. Next week could also be as well. You're going to get from him. It's somewhere in the mid to high 50s at a consistent basis. And I think that you can lock that in as a really, really solid pick for you that you hold for the rest of the season and you expect good things. Mr. Preston, not much else to say on that. The try numbers are fairly high, but he also scored a fair few tries in 2024, as you can see below. Now, moving on to our next player is Eli Katoa at 6.95. Priced at 52, they're averaging 54.7. So a similar little jump based on the price point that you can get for both those two. He's just not going to score as high. You saw on the weekend there, he was involved in everything and got that little bit of an early mark, a try, 2 try assists there. But you will see with him, the tackle numbers are lower than Preston. And you'll see the meters gained are a little bit higher. Now, with him, if he has the lower tackle number games, then you are hoping that he gets offloads, that he gets some type of attacking stat. And if he does, you can bank on him hitting 50s and 60s like you've seen over the last couple of months, really. The consistency's been awesome. And, since that low score of 25, he's been great. Lowest score of 48 since that time. And if you're paying $695K for him, with no buys, he's going to do an awesome job for you. It's more a fact of how much cash do you have. We've got guys like Wighton coming into existence very soon for us. and then Preston at the higher price as well. So it's more just a price thing because we know Preston's probably going to outdo him scoring-wise. And you got Kikau in the slightly cheaper than that range at $6.59. Had a really good game as well on the weekend. Back-to-back great scores of 79 and 61. And look at those offloads, man. The offloads of 3 every single week for the last 5 with 5 tackle breaks as well in round 17. So if he can keep up offloads and tackle breaks like that, which we know he won't, then he'll be worth it. But for me, I think he maintains his low 50s and is just a little bit below some of the other guys. So I personally still would pick Katoa because we've known him to do it for a few seasons. With Kikau, it's more of like he has taken on a newer role and has moved into that really, really well. 53.5 averaging, getting him at a 49 is pretty solid. Now, Jackie Bird. Can't believe we're back to him, but edge and centre duel. Thank you to Brett for letting me know that, well, you can buy him, Jamie, to help you centre this week, and then he can help you next week if you need it or want it in edge as well, because I'm short in the centres and wing fullback this week, and then short in mid and edge next week. So thank you, Brett. I didn't even think about it. Just like, he's playing second row, but he's just a centre. And how in the world we don't have Ewan Aiken as centre duel is beyond me. He continues to get named there. He should be there. Anyway, I think we get it a bit too late for Ewan Aiken there. But Jack Bird at 337k. We know that he can score pretty well at second row. I personally thought he was a wait and see after seeing the 27 in round 5. But what we've seen over the last few weeks there is a better PPM. 28 and 46 off the bench, 47 and 52, 21 and 21, 22 and 33. And then last week there, tackled really well and played 74 minutes for a 45. And yes, the tackle break and the run meters aren't exactly there. And they still got beat. But for him to get those tackle numbers in was great. Not sure if he can go back to back to back with those types of really good numbers, but we know for him that he has done it before. If you look at other seasons and in that second row position, the most previous time in 2023, he was awesome. So there is upside there, but is his age of tick older than me at 31 or 32? Is that going to be a problem there? Not sure if the mic is good enough to not hear the sounds outside. It's absolutely crazy. So Bird, a cheap guy that will play week to week at least, which is a good thing. And you can, if you need him, and you can loop and all this good stuff there. And then you got him with Terrell May and whoever else you want as a buy looper in round 23 or whatever that is there. So yeah, a solid pick this week as a cheap or cheaper cash down. Now Burbo, I had to mention him just for Matty T because he's not on the not on the vids this week. But with the Burbs, we've got a couple of good scores in the last 5 weeks in amongst 20s and 30s. So that's probably enough to say at 523k you don't want to go there with the buy next week. But I just thought I'd mention him because I imagine there'll be a few that look at him after the 60 odd. And now Jerome Hughes, we move into the halves there. And we've got a few options there with Hughes. People are looking at KO weeks. We've got Adam Reynolds, we've still got Latu Fainu. And then we move to like the half centres with Douehi and Wighton with DCE and Matty Burton. So plenty of guys to have a look at here. And with Jerome at 641, coming off a really, really good score, I do think that he can score well again. And it did take him a while to get those run meters up, but he managed to get there throughout the game with the 2 try assists and the try. And we saw this in that round 14 clash. So if you're just looking at the previous 4 weeks, he's got 2 mid-40s and 2 80s, and he's priced at 48. Now, if you can expect that kind of stuff to continue, then awesome. We know we saw it last year, and we know he can be a 60s guy. I'm still not convinced on the 60s guy longer term, but I do think he's like a 53. And if you bought last week, you got a lot of the spoils, and now you're paying a decent premium for someone like Hughes, who I think this year is still a tier below guys like Isaiah Katoa, who you could spend 100k more and grab. So yes, 2 buys as well. You've got to factor that in. I still think Hughes is a good pick. Last week was the slam dunk type of pick, given he was 594. and he's gone up almost 50k after that week. So that's where it's a bit harder. Whereas before you were getting him at a clear discount, now it's a small discount there. I mean, no shopping, small discounts, sometimes they don't get you over the line. KO Weeks, 458k for him. Some people are bringing him in. The reason being he's following up from a 68. But if you look at the 4 scores previous to that, it will make you vomit and you will walk away from looking at KO Weeks. Adam Reynolds at 655k. So he just continues his consistency. And that's the big thing with Reynolds, is that you're expecting mid-50s on a regular basis, priced at 49. And he's in a position to continue doing that. Now, they do miss one game in round 20, which, if you have Haas, that's all you've got. So it'd be him and Reynolds, which is fine. But it's doggies this week without a few of their origin guys. Broncos are missing them too. Into Titans next week, and then you've got Para and Rabbitohs in around it. So if you can keep him on the park, then I think Reynolds will be good, and the consistency can help you. But do you want to go for him, or do you want to go for someone like DCE at 621k, who's not too far off him? And then also you've got Matt Burton at 581. So for daily first at 621, he is priced, 5 points under where he's averaging. So 46, and he's averaging 50.7. And for daily, just scrolling back to his recent ones, it's back-to-back 52s, getting, as Mitchy Boy said, some junk offloads. He got 3 of them this week. 52, 52, 37, and then 57, 52 before a 36. So for me, with him this year, he does have 2 scores over 70, but longer term, I don't see the upside. It is Rabbitohs this week, but then it's Melbourne, and it's Doggies and Roosters following that, following their bye. So I still think there's other decent options, but we know in previous seasons, at the end of the season is when he goes nuts and does his best work. Matty Burton at 581. Guys, make sure if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that button along with that like button as well. Let's keep getting this out there. Next goal is 15,000 people, which is so crazy. And for anyone I see out and about that watches the channel, usually at a pub or something like that, I do appreciate all of you guys. And especially in Auckland, we had a few at the full-time sports bar and eatery, which was good fun to meet all you guys. You're all such awesome humans. Now, Matty B, 581k, the price at 43. Now, when we're looking at his scores recently, 245s, 56 and a 61. And it's similar in a way to Hughes. He just has another 280s there and is priced that decent amount cheaper at 5 points down. If you're looking at him now, he gets through not 18th man, which is great. It's Broncos without their stars. It's Cowboys, St. George, Manly, and Tigers, who all aren't incredible, teams that they're coming up against. So I definitely think Matty B can hit a 50 plus, 52 type of average over the rest of the season. If you just look at those 5, you might be able to beat it then and then slow down a little bit. In a good team, he's someone that you could buy and get through the rest of the season with. My worry with him is that he ends up being a Nico Hines type player. They're at a very similar price right now, where he'll have the 50 odd and then he'll very comfortably and very easily have the 40 odd, which can hurt his overall average. And when there's other better half players, you just push for them instead. Now let's go back to Latu Fainu there at 328k. He's priced at 24, averaging 31 now. But what you're looking at is the previous 3 weeks. He finally got the opportunity for 80 minutes there at halfback. And unfortunately for us, we had -10. We had no attacking stats there in that one. And tackle numbers are still under 20. So there will be opponents that just attack him. And he's coming up against, thankfully not Angus Crichton, but that left-hand side, they're going to have Egan Butcher likely with Billy Smith. So it's definitely not as bad as Nawaqanitawase on the other side there. But with Latu at this price point, I don't know. I feel like last week was the play. This week it's still a lowish break even, but if you need a half, sweet, but I don't think many people do. So if you don't, then I think you just leave him from now, basically. He'll be all right from here, but yeah, it's interesting. Adam Douehi, the other guy on the list in that half centre role. He moves into the 6th position. I'm not sure if that sticks, though. I don't think it does. I think he goes back to centre, but it's just been great to see his form improve dramatically over the last 2. He managed some kick meters in the back half of that game. So he's got 58 in that one, 52 in the week before. But if he goes back to centre, like we have seen him, he was very low in that game before and then broke out with good running, good tackle break numbers. He could easily go back to kind of where he's at, that mid-30s type scoring, and just doesn't really help you as a mid-range guy right now. You want guys that can be scorers for you and help in some weeks in like the 300s or so, unless they have major upside like Turbo, who we'll speak about soon. So I think Doueihi's just a bit of an awkward one who should score well this week, but how much is he actually going to help you longer term? Jackie Wighton. How good is the great man? Especially when he gets his opportunity to play in the halves. We know he's a much better scorer. And you saw that last week there. He managed a 2-try effort there. 13 tackles for 5 tackle breaks there. And 155 metres. And he keeps his spot at 5'8". And you see there the 33 is going to be pretty normal as a bit of a floor. Similar to Adam Doueihi there at 426k. How much does he actually help you? He doesn't really save you too much cash. Does he have the big upside? I don't think so in this team. Like, you're going to see Latrell really take over after, and he has the bye next week as well, so it doesn't help you there, and has a bye later on. So for Wighton, it's a no from me. Moving to the centres and then the wing fullback guys. Karapani, he's gotten himself to a very, very awkward price, hasn't he? We've got him now with just the 3 games there, but 49, 39, and 54. Last week he picked up not only the try and 2 line breaks, but also a try saver and a turnover tackle. It just continues to happen for Karapani, and I do think there's a time where it stops. Is it now? Is it next week? Or is it like, in around 22 or something like that? Which doesn't matter as much because these 2 here are the important ones with, the doggies will still be solid, but you got Titans following that. They're the really important ones, and then he's kind of like, almost selling territory after that. So I don't know if you want to buy someone like him for 2 weeks of help, and then you're probably moving on because he's at a decent price to do so. So Karapani, solid one. Last week was better. Nawaqanitawase. This is the more of a question around, can he be a keeper? So at this price point at 45, we see him averaging 48, and he's coming off clearly a few good games there, 48 and 81. Now in the centres, we've seen him have that little bit of a floor, a little bit of a ceiling at the 56 mark, and then he's done well at winger. So if you're buying him this week, you're buying it for the upside here of the next 2 weeks of Tigers and the Dragons. With the dual position, does he stay in our team for the entire season now, or is it more of a shorter term play and then you use him to get to a gun in any position? It could be Latrell at fullback, it could be Yo or Haas or whoever else that you can use him as a guy to move from in your side to get to where you want to go. That's my question with guys like him, with guys like Drinky, with guys like Pappenhausen. Can they get that 50 average or above and just be a guy that sticks in your side? You didn't have to overpay for him. They're just going to do a job for you. Or will you end up selling them at some point down the line? And these, this rule applies for guys like Garrick as well, who I'm going to talk about now, who's slightly cheaper than Nawa. The big thing the big difference here is that Garrick misses around 19 and Mark doesn't. And we've seen this year, they both have had that one big game of upside. Mark took 2 tries, for Garrick it took 4, and he's on that left wing now, so less exciting for Garrick. Now I think at this stage of the season I would buy Nawaqanitawase before I would get Garrick, so that probably says enough. I'm holding Garrick, but doesn't need to be bought. Matt Timoko, thought I'd mention him as well, given his price at the 36 mark, and we've seen him have very, very up and down periods there. You see the 4-week stretch, which was pretty good from round 8 to 11, and then he went poor again. And we know that these types of players are going to have that. He misses next week. So we've seen him be a 40-odd guys in the past. He is priced 5 points basically under where he's averaged this year. It's about getting these guys at the right time, and does he actually have big upside? Probably not. Now, one of the must-haves, I think, is James Tedesco at 719k, especially against the Tigers and the Dragons coming up. There's no better time to buy Teddy than now, and I think you want him as a final 3 or 4 guy in your wing fullback, along with players like Latrell, players like Karaz and JC and these types of guys. Teddy has the upside. We've seen it in recent weeks there. 68, 53, 69, 51, 43, 85, and 70 are his last 6 scores, which are awesome. So lock him in, get him in your side, and some people might look to captain him, which would be pretty funky. Him or Nawa, these types of guys there. Savala we could mention as well. I don't know if people are going to buy him now. You will see Sammy Walker return in the next couple of weeks, so just be aware of that. And we should see Sandon come out of the team, but we know that Savala then will be relying a lot of his defensive work. And yeah, is it worth getting someone at this price? I don't think so. Turbo, 416 is a lovely price. Priced at 31. He was a decent buy last week. I probably should have done it myself over Latu, but it is what it is. We move on to this week. He's gone 40, 44, and 49. Still ran for decent meters. He did pop up on the left-hand side as well, which was great. Picked up a try assist, 15 tackles for 1 miss, managed 7 tackle breaks as well. So he's got a lovely assignment there this week against the Bunnies, who he'll be coming up against, I think, Hughes and Aiken. So Aiken defensively pretty good in general, and we will get into the holds and sells tomorrow, guys. But yeah, Turbo I think is a good person to purchase at this price point that has upside. Yes, at centre maybe it's a little bit less apart from Origin. And if he moves back to fullback, we know what he can do. The injury risk is there definitely, but seems to be a little bit less at centre apart from when he tears his pec. Drinkwater. The price point is ridiculous. The break even is still high. It's 544k priced at 40 for someone who we know can do really well. Now the run, it's generally okay. He misses the last week, which we know can be difficult, but it's more the team and how they're going to perform. They could get smashed against the Storm this week, and Drinky tries to carry a bit, but unfortunately could have some issues as well. Like round 15 against the Dolphins, they got smacked, and he picked up 13 in under 70 minutes. So he has that worry. He also has the upside, like we've seen through the round 4 through round 9, and then had a few good weeks, 13, 14, but he has that downside too. So someone I think that is still a decent pick. Do you want to go for him? Do you want to go for Pappy? Do you want to go for Garrick or Nawa? That, I think, is the hardest part. Now, Pappin, the Schnackenhausen at 594k. The price drop this week just gone is helpful. The worry with him is the 29 that he threw up. He's also had other 20s, 37, lots of 40s here. So, what are his chances of getting back to that ton? What you don't see here is any tries in the last 5 games for him. So we know that hasn't hardly happened this year. Against the Cowboys, I think he has a really good game. So if you want someone that has the highest upside, if you already have Teddy, it is Pappenhausen and it is Nawaqanitawase this week. So Pat with the goal kicking, that's the kind of big winner. But he can have some weeks where he gets some time off there, which is annoying as well. 6 minutes off at the back end of that game. So that's Pap, a fun upside pick. The rest of the season, the setup is fine. It's generally hard in some points, but it is the Storm, so that's where it's the fine part, but a fun pick. And the last 2 there, we have Jed Stuart and we have Joey Chan. Actually, we'll go to him first. I forgot about him playing a centre, but in the edge, I don't really like him as a cash down. You'll see here he has played some games off the bench, and it's a bit sporadic. The last game he played was round 13, and he hasn't really been able to score well. He could do well at centre this week, but I don't think is a guy you can pick. And then Jed Stuart, coming off a 31 and a 39, yes, scoring in both. How good's the 12 tackles last game too? So for Jed there, he does miss round 19, so if that hurts you, that's annoying. But if it doesn't, and you just want him for this week, hopefully score a 30 or 40, then that's sweet. And then hopefully that next 4 games will be good. And then the last 3, you kind of don't really need him. That would be the goal there. So we'll leave it for this one, guys. Round 18, buy the big buys for round 18 of NRL Fantasy. I hope that was very, very helpful for your team. And just make sure you do look into strategy and everything else this week, because that, I believe, is the most important part. How many trades do you use? Do you try and get the 13 on the park? All the things you need to think of for yourself. And make sure you do go and check out the Instagram, Fantasy Jamie, and also TikTok, guys, to help me. The best way to help grow my platform is to go and follow those. Check them out here and there. And just that's the best way to support watching these videos, listening to the podcast, all the good stuff there. A big thanks, and we'll see you in the next one. We got Scoop, we got Beholds and Sells, all the good stuff. See you guys.